Welcome everybody to the 16th Keshe Foundation Health Teaching Workshop. This workshop is called The Pelvic Cavity and Reproduction, Conversion of Matter from GANS to Solid State. And today we'll hear from Dr. E.Kostova of the Spaceship Institute. And after that we'll have a commentary by Mr.M.T.Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, and he'll give his input on Elia, who will give the more the professional doctor's point of view, but she'll also tie in with the Keshe teaching. Okay, Elia, are you ready to go there?
Yes. Hello, everybody. It's me, Elia. It's nice to be with you and the sixth health teaching workshop of Keshe Foundation. Today, the subject will be the pelvic cavity and reproduction. In the same way, of that place, we have transforming the GANS state to the matter state. So today, we'll be see the vice versa transversion of matter, opposite of the digestive system, where we convert the matter state from matter to the GANS. So on the first slide, I just want to remember you the different parts of the body cavitation. So we have the cranial cavity, where this is the place of the core reactor of our body. Then we go to the chest section of our body, and this is the place for the second star formation, built from the two lungs, heart, and thymus. Then we go to the abdomen cavity, where we say the previous workshop that we have two-star formation formed from liver, pancreas, spleen, output system, and bladder, and one more formed from kidney, renal gland, and bladder. And today we'll be speak about the pelvic cavity. This is our fifth star formation. And then we go to the next slide. On the next slide, I mention you is like on shape, the name of different star formations, just to keep in mind and to not forget. On the first, you see the two star formations in the cranial cavity and in the chest cavity, and the direction of the BZ arch. On the cranial cavity, the BZ is facing down, and the thoracic area is facing up. On the next slide, we will see the reason why it is happening like that in our body. Then the next slide, it is again representation of the star formation in our abdomen cavity and pelvic cavity. Actually, different star formation, they are separate to each other from diaphragm. We start with diaphragm with mouth, then diaphragm in thoracic area, and finish with the third one, diaphragm in pelvic area. Actually, abdomen cavity and pelvic cavity, they are positioning so close to each other, next to each other, actually in one common cavity, but they are separate between them. And in the abdomen cavity, we have two star formations, how we spoke the previous workshop. And the pelvic cavity, we have only one star formation. It is regarding, this is for female body or the male body, have a different components inside. So if we speak about the female body, the components will be womb, left ovary, right ovary, and the G-spot, what is actually the gland near in between the bones and the in front of wall of the vagina. And if it's for the male body, will be prostate gland, testicles right and left, and again the G-spot. And the visit will be face down. In that sense, our body forms two poles, south and north, and the south pole will be open up after our fifth star formation, after the pelvic cavity, and the north pole will be open up above the first one star formation. This is the cranial cavity. Okay, then the next slide. So how you notice the direction of the busy of each one star formation? Now it's understandable for you that our body form the magnet and magnetic fields between the north and south pole. Actually, we form two inner torus structure, and one will be covered the top reactor cranial cavity in the chest reactor. If you remember the previous workshop, I told you that both star formation in cranial cavity and thoracic cavity, they are completely sustainable. They are able to work without other three star formations. And the next one, torus, will be after the diaphragm and will cover the abdomen cavity and pelvic cavity. So actually we have two inner torus because we are magnets, and all these both two torus will be covered from one common outer part of the torus, what be our energy egg, if you remember how I explained it to you the previous workshop. Actually, we are the magnets with two parts of inner torus separate because of separation of our star formations and the vector of star formation where the face at the busy line up or down, and two inner torus, they're inside of the outer torus. This is our aura, how we call in energy anatomy of the human body. Okay, so the next slide, please.
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
Dr. Elia, you got to explain it's BZ, not BZ, because it doesn't show what it is.
BZ
is the horizontal line of the magnetic field flow from the plasma.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So with that slide, I want to remember for you how we separate the human body in different plane. So we have the frontal plane and separate the body from front and back. We have sagittal plane and separate the body left and right. And we have the horizontal plane and separate the body from top and to bottom. Also, we have additional planes, but this is the main three planes of our body. And on the right side of the slide, you see how they form specific shape. And inside of that specific shape is placed our body. Actually, because of that place, we have different cavity inside of our body where is the place of specific organs. And that specific organs have that place because they have specific function. Then we go to the next slide. Because of that separation of our body, of our architecture of our body, actually we got the shape of cup of hexadendron, if you see on the left side. And the cup of hexadendron is combining structure of many other small geometric structure inside. Actually, our body is completely built, and it's related with the golden ratio and fractal geometry. Even if you notice it, in the consequence on Fibonacci, we start with 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. If you notice, we have the top reactor 1, and then we separate with the thoracic area 1 more. In the abdomen area, we have 2. With pelvic area, we have 3, and all is 5. It means we follow, even in the separation of inner our reactors, again the Fibonacci consequence. On the right side of the slide, you see how this hexadendron is actually the base of building of our energy system. And the torus, which is covered our material body, actually. And we may say that the first is the energy matrix of our body, and then the energy is compressed to the matter level state. Actually, if you look ourselves like a light banks, we will be looks like that. Okay, then we go to the next slide. In the next slide, on the left side, is visible for you how two octadendrons, when they split together, for inside is the human body. This is actually all the geometric point of view of our architecture of our body. And because of that architecture, we have specific spinning of the fluids. How I told you the previous workshop, in the abdomen area, because of the third star formation, what is in the middle, on the base of liver, the BZ face right to left because cause the spinning of the vortex of the all energy inside, which is generated from other star formations. And why we have to have two in abdomen area? Because in abdomen area, this is the place where we convert the solid matter to the GANS state. It means there the matter state is so heavy, so solid, and need a lot of energy to start and to proceed with conversion. So on the right side of that slide, it is again representation of torus system and vector and geometric vector, what we actually have in the BZ line in the abdomen area, and how, because of that geometric structure, our energy fields, they spin right to left on the same way like our DNA. So on the next slide, I will show you why I explained everything to you after the moment. So we consider that we have small structure and different geometric model inside of our cube of hexahedron, and this is the tetrahedron and octahedron. And in the Platonic solids, this is representation of fire and air, like a matter state. So the next state, this is the earth, and everything what is on the earth and its origin from the earth, the main geometric structure inside is hexahedron. So with our architecture of our body and of our fields, we represent the earth. This is one of the point how to consider which one bank from where come from and what is the base of that bank. Actually, on the earth, the base of hexahedron, this is the carbon structure. And because we are bank from the earth, we have a carbon structure of our body. How you see the next geometric structure, they're completely different for water and ether. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide with everything what I told you and a representation of cosmogenesis. It's a more geometrical point of view how because of organization of fields, finally we will reach the matter state. So we are come from the space like a field, and that field's reaching the earth, and because of the construction of the earth, like architecture of the fields and then the matter state, we finally get specific shape and architecture of our body. Then we go to the next slide. Next slide is again a representation and repetitive model of the toroid system of the Earth, of the galaxy, of the erythrocyte, of our human body, and how that torus starts to divide when give birth from the new being. Just keep in mind that picture how the common torus divide to the two parts and where is the vector geometrical vector between two torus in the middle. In the same way divide the galaxies and the same way divide the cells in our body, in the same way how you saw divide the energy system in our body. This is the repetitive model. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Interesting information what's come that week in the net is that Professor Miles and Dr. Romero and Dr. Giovanni and their team, they managed to slow down the light inside of the vacuum for the first time. So what does mean? We, like a fuse, like a light, finally, in our century, scientists managed to discover that they are able to slow down the light in vacuum system. Our body is completely vacuum system. What is mean that we receive the plasma fields, the GANS fields, different state of matter, and like our body, this is the vacuum system, we are managed to slow down them to different state of matter regarding which part of our body is able to convert that state of matter to the structure of the body. Then we go to the next slide. Next slide is again information for that week, what is really so interesting because this is the controversial information. Different kind of scientists, they managed to unboil the boiled egg. They boil the eggs nearly 45 minutes to the solid state, then use it, the urea, this is the aggressive chemical from our urine, which actually separate the part of the proteins, and then they use it, the vortex fluid device, to convert the process of solid state of the egg to the liquid state of the egg. What actually is the controversy of the previous side. So in our planet, we are able to convert the solid state of matter to the previous state of matter, what actually in our architecture of the body, we represent the same process in our pelvic cavity. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide. This is the next explanation with everything what I told to you to the moment. Like we receive the fluids and different state of matter in a vortex. They come in us from the North Pole and go out of us through the South Pole. And because we have separation between the star formation inside of our body, we make actually two vortex, which is come in and one go out. And the vortex which is come in will receive and slow down the light or the more soft state of matter and convert them to the GANS state. And everything which is going out from us have to be converted in opposite way from the GANS state, which is the base of our body, to the matter state to be able to go out. And on the right side, you see how is architecture of our body. It is completely fit to the flower of life, which is the main geometric structure in our planet. Then the next slide. The next slide is visible for you how actually looks like our body if you think about our star formations inside. You see on the top, this is the cranial cavity and the fluids what is around. Inside the main point of the star formation, what on that slide is more bright. You see like a brightening in the middle of the picture. Then you go to the thoracic area. Then you see you have two coins, one like matryoshka is your abdomen, and then on the bottom is your pelvic area. Actually, if we picture it ourselves in some way to represent our energy system and fluids, we will be look exactly like that picture. Then we go to the next slide. Next slide is 18, and this is video from SSI. Please Could you please just open the video?
There is no physical boundary. It's the field which is on the left, on the membrane, which is holding it. So you have everything what you want to see. You want to study plasma, open a link. This side is more, that side is less. Bring it together from this side. Just turn it. I spent hours and hours doing things like this. This now has the point to become matter. Here you don't have that much space. Put the two together and see how they interact. And turn it and see how they interact. Yeah? If you turn this in this way, you look. You see that? Pulls to the weight to the side. This is what a plasma is. It doesn't have a container. You understand? The shell. This is what the reactor was. This has no meaning. There is no meaning to the shell. That shell is a galaxy. Doesn't matter. You understand? When you come in, you look at the condition, not at the container. Because when you have this egg in your hand, this plasma has still the same rotation inside. Yes. So it's irrelevant if it's a small egg or a big egg. The interaction is still the same. This is what you need to do, to move away from physicality. When you
Shall I move to the next one, Elia?
Yeah, please, the next one.
push to be able to go. If you get a galaxy, you have a center point and you have the arms. If it's a magnet, push to be able to go. If you get a galaxy, you have a center point and you have the arms. If it's a magnetic field arms, yeah? So this is turning in, as it turns, where they are pushing in, the space for the interaction of the two solar systems is too narrow. There's no choice. But the strange thing is that if you are here in the wing, as you're going closer in, another system of life has already started on this wing behind it. Because here, the plasma has a space enough to create matrix to create creation. That's why in the paper, it's in the fourth book, we say life is not exclusively physical. And this environment, the size of the plasma. You change the one plasma, you start seeing matter. So creation follows. As you go closer, you get not life in the physical matter, but you get a life in the transition, highly intelligent. Because then the physicality is in the principle and the transition, not in the matter state in the weaker state. So the life gets destroyed, but you get a new life structure on the residue of the field of this planet. So what about the soul? The souls are everything. The souls have no dimension. Now, when you come in right. And try to feel, don't look for motion. You don't see the yolk of egg running inside the egg. It creates invisible fields. That, with a sperm of knowledge, another field, creates
Okay, thank you. So, how you listen the video from the SSI and the explanation of Mr. Keshe? This is several so important things which you are supposed to understand, that it's everything is state of matter, can be plasma, can be GANS, can be something more deep or more solid, and everything is positioning, is regarding how you position to plasma to each other, that state of matter you will create in the gap between them. This is the same of the positioning between the planet Earth and the Sun. This is the two plasmas, and because of them positioning to each other, we have the planet Earth in the habitat area of our solar system. And because of that positioning to the Sun, we have that kind of beings in our planet because they interact in the specific way that allow to have the carbon-based beings in our planet. So we go to the next slide. To the next slide is a representation of your body. So how Mr. Keshe said that how much you are close to the source, is mean the sun, that much you have a transitional and more intelligent matter state. This is not solid matter. This is transitional matter or the matter above. So what does mean? We like a structure, we suppose to convert different state of matter. We saw the previous workshop that we are able to convert the solid state of matter to the GANS through our digestive system and through our thoracic area with lungs and heart. But we supposed to reproduce ourselves. So what is mean? We supposed to be creator itself. And regarding that, Mr. Keshe said, if you want to receive the matter state, the solid matter of the matter state, you're supposed to have enough space between two plasmas and to be little far away from the source. In our case, in our body, our sun, our source, will be the first co-reactor because for each star formations, this is our top reactor, our cavity, cranial cavity. So, which is the completely opposite point of our body. This is the pelvic area. This is the last one, enough far away of the source place where we are able to produce, to create the matter state of matter. And because of that, on that place, we have our reproductive system. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide, from the left side, this is the reproductive system of the male, and the right is from the female. On the male, the star formation, how I told you, this is the prostate gland. This is heart in that star formation, two testicles, and is a representation of feeding system, lungs. And the G-spot, this is on our thymus, on that star formation. From the female will be the womb, two ovaries, and the G-spot again. How you see the shape of the womb and the organization of the reproductive system of the male, there have again representation model of the reactors. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide, this is the upper point of view in the pelvic area. For the male bank. You see on the top, it's on the shape of apple. It is a prostate gland, and then through the prostate gland come the channels from testicles. Actually, the core of that star formation is your pelvic bones, then the muscles. This is the pelvic diaphragm on the bottom, and inside of that cavity, it is the place for the fifth star formation from the male bank. Then we go to the next slide. Next slide is a representation of the testicles. On the left side, you see the testicle have a two part. One part is like a mesh full of ductus where is producing place of spermatozoid. On the top of the testicle is its epididymis. This is again the channeling structure, and all the spermatozoids go through the epididymis and above to the other channels in the formation of the full components of the sperm. Actually, if you look at it, the full structure of testicles, it is again a repetitive model of the generator, and it is so similar to an embryo in the womb. If you look like a testicles, it is like a bottom part of the embryo feeding system, and the embryo on top where is the epididymis. And small one picture, a red one on the left corner, you see the testicles inside of scrotum. It is exactly like a reactor with core. In the middle, this is the cross section of the spermatozoid. See inside of the spermatozoid, it is like a spoon, actually is like a shape, have a nucleus and many organs which support the movement of the spermatozoid. On the right side, this is more precise anatomical picture to see the different part of the spermatozoid, and for you more interesting will be the tail and the middle piece, which is actually the reactor, the generator of kinetic energy for that cell to be able to move. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide represents you the module of engine inside of the tail of the spermatozoid. The engine contains different kind of microtubules and proteins, so similar to the architecture of muscles. If you remember when we spoke about the actin and myosin, how they move and slide to each other, and because of that we have a relaxation of contraction of myofibers. On the same principle, this is the architecture of the microtubules inside of the tail, and actually because of them movement have different positioning of the myotubules to each other. What is interesting to know, because again this is the question of positioning, how they will position to each other, on that way they will move. And how you see on the right side of the slide, they're able to make different kind and shape of movements, and every part of that movement is related of positioning to each other of that myotubules, microtubules. This is completely natural engine and generate a huge amount of kinetic energy. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide is more deep explanation of the structure of the tail and how actually it's working, where where is the engine for the tail. This is the mitochondria, how you see the head of the spermatozoid. After that, you have an engine, mitochondria, which is use the ATP, and transform to ADP, actually use the hydrogen. And then you have, because of that conversion, different positioning between the microtubules, and they organize different positioning of the tail. It is amazing how nature are able to organize so precisely everything. On the right side, you see how actually inside of the tail, different positions of the microtubules. This is really amazing. Okay, so that is the natural engine of each spermatozoid cell. Then we go to the next slide. Okay, so because of kinetic energy producing inside of the tail, spermatozoid cell it's able to move. And one other so important point is the head of that cell. The head of that cell actually go inside of the O cell, and to be able to go inside need different kind of mechanism to be able to open the wall of the O cell. And if you see, I will not keep you busy with all the process, but interesting to see that the wall of the head of the spermatozoid is full of calcium channels. And if you remember from the previous workshop, the main point for conversion the calcium, this is the pelvic bones, where the calcium converts in different strength of GANS. And actually on that slide is visible for you, even in the head of the spermatozoid, the main ion is the calcium again. And because ever calcium is related with movement. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide, this is the reproductive system of the female. This is the point of view above of the pelvic area. And how you see again, this is like a core, pelvic bones, muscles, womb, and on the behind of the womb, this is the bladder. Actually, you have two hearts of two stars formation just sitting one above another, which is really interesting. And then on the two corners, you have ovary and the blue wares. This is the fallopian tubes. Then we go to the next slide. From the womb, it's interesting organization of muscles. They have different directions because the main function of the womb to positioning itself with contraction of or relaxation of the muscles. Also, positioning of each reactor in our body it happens because every one organ in our body is positioning with connective tissue. It's nothing stable. Everything is in dynamic state to be able to position itself because of others. And because of that, in womb, which is the main reactor on that area, we have again the muscle organ with different direction of the muscles and connected to the bones part with connective tissue to be able to positioning itself. And the orientation of the muscles it is regarding of the function of the womb to be able to grow during the pregnancy and then to be able to contract and to push out the fetus. Each organ in pelvic area contains the smooth muscles, so less the striated muscles. And how you know the smooth muscles then belongs to the emotional part of our brain. Then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation of ovary and how is the development of the old cells inside. I will not keep you busy with all the parts, just see ovary, it's again on the shape of the reactor. It's completely the same shape. We have the layering of the walls. On the right side, you see how the ovary just push out the old cells. This is like a sun flaring, and the old cells go out and through the Evstachiev tube go inside of the womb. Okay, the next slide. The next slide is the old cell. This is the biggest cell in the human body. It is completely like an egg. Inside have a feeding system to be able to feed the beginning of the fetus, where we have the cell state, how I explained it to you the previous workshop, and different kind of layering of the wall to protect all that system. Even the name of the protective area, how you see, is written corona radiata in the same way like sun. Okay, the next slide. The next slide on the left side is representation of the spermatozoid and old cells, and how you see the old cells is like a sun and spermatozoid is like a planet reaching the sun. So again, in fertilization, this is the question of positioning. Even have different kind of explanations from different authors that to be able also to include one spermatozoid inside, it's impossible to happen only with one. Have to have minimum 13 spermatozoids touching the old cells in different corners on different parts of the cell, and then because of that positioning, one is able to go in. So even in the cells area, we speak again about the positioning, because this is the same manner interaction with two plasmas. Because of the positioning, we get a different bank in between. Then we go to the next slide. The next slide is video. Could you please, Rick, just put it? Thank you. Yeah, yeah, this is the representation of the fertilization of the oat cell. And you see, we need the amount of the spermatozoid to be able, one, to go in. And one, actually, it's happen. If we accept the oocyte like a sun or the proton and the spermatozoid like a electron, because of them positioning, we get different kind of reaction. So a fertilization is happen when we have specific positioning of the head of spermatozoid to zona pellucida. This is the membrane what is covering the old cell, and this is the penetration membrane with different kind of defense system in it. You see on the left side different stage of penetration of the spermatozoid, and when the field on the zona pellucida, it is like electric state, starts to be similar to electric state of the head of the spermatozoid, he is able to go in through the channels. And only the head of the spermatozoid go inside of the cytoplasma of the oat cell. You see on the right side of that slide, this is more schematical point of view, but actually happen exactly that. Have to have similarity. How you I show you on the head of the spermatozoid have the calcium channels. They organize the electric field on the head of the spermatozoid on the same way we have in zona pellucida. Because of positioning of the number of the spermatozoid around the ovate cells, we have change of that field of the zona pellucida, and one of the spermatozoid is able to go in, and only head of the spermatozoid go in. Then the structure of the head of the spermatozoid dissolve inside and starts to be coupling of two nucleus of oocyte cell and spermatozoid. Then we go to the next slide. Next slide is video, Rick. Could you please? Yeah, and then the 36 is again video. Yeah, yeah, next slide. So actually, the first one, you see the last one, but this is the first one when the spermatozoid go inside of the oocytes cells. And how you see, this is the same way how the Mr. Keshe explained with the eggs. This is the two plasmas, two nucleus from the spermatozoid and the oocytes cells. They start to positioning themselves. They start to be one cell, and because of that, how you see now on the slide, from one cell, they start to convert to two parts. And this is the same organization if you're familiar with Drunvalo Melchizedek, an explanation of law of life, the geometric point of view, and the Genesis geometric. Everything in the reproduction is the representation of that. So first we get division to two cells, and then two cells for the four, and so on. And actually this is the repetitive model, not only when we in our body produce the matter state, this is everything what exists in our planet. But interesting is when you see the videos, how the plasmas interact to each other. They are, you see them on the plant form, but they are like a sphere. They are 3D formations. And from one cell, this is the one sustainable reactor, then you go 2, 3, this is the same way actually when you make the star formation. How much you put more bigger reactors around, that much different kind of fields you will reach inside. And finally, from the one cell through the egg of life and to the flower, to the seed of life and to the flower of life, we start to form our body. Next slide. So the next slide, I want to show the similarity of representation and formation, the hexagonal packaging of the feuds, how they form actually the egg of life, what they call the egg of life, and then the flower of life. And on the right side, this is the carbon 60 molecule of the carbon 60. See how they are similar. When we make our matter, how we start from one plasma, and then from the state of morula, then gastrula, we reach the shape of the carbon 60. So this is one more point that sustainable life in our planet. This is because of carbon and because the positioning of the fields to each other and in the hexagonal structure. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is again a representation of carbon 60. This is the same structure of our morula, the state when the fetus reach the womb and go inside of the wall of the womb, because the reproduction and coupling start in the ovary tube, is not on the womb, and then travel to the womb and go inside of the wall. But everything in our planet is a repetitive model, and everything is happened because of positioning inside of the fields. Okay, then we go to the next slide. And finally, when the gastrula reach the womb, go inside of the wall, and starts to formation of new one reactor. The wall is the womb. What outside have the connective tissue. Inside, this is the transitional matter of muscles of the womb and the placenta, the feeding system of the baby. and inside is growing new one bank. It is again repetitive model. And how in the previous workshop Mr. Keshe said, everything which is based of carbon attract the fields of nitrogen, and because of that attract the fields of nitrogen, comes around with oxygen and starts to make the amino acid, which is the carbon base material state of our planet. So is for my side. It's I hope you understand how with digestive system, because of the vortex which come in from the North Pole to the South, we accept the state of matter what we are supposed to convert to the GANS state to be able our body to fit itself, and we to be able to reproduce ourselves, we supposed to convert the GANS state to the matter state. Okay, thank you. If you have a questions, please ask me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elia. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions on the Skype or GoToMeeting? I'll check the other questions as well.
I have a question, Elia, and that is it the first sperm that gets to the egg, or is only accepts a certain one out of the bunch that get there?
Could you repeat, please? I cannot understand you.
When is it the first sperm that reaches the egg that inseminates the egg, or is it a certain sperm on the side?
There are millions. There are huge amount of spermatozoids. This is like millions, and only thousands reach finally the ovocide, and is regarding of them fields, which is the electric fields around the head of the spermatozoid, and then positioning. It is so important, that positioning, actually. And which one is the position on the correct way? That one go inside, but can be one. They supposed to have amount of them positioning around and touching corona radiata of the ovate cells, and because of the common work, one go inside. Do you understand? This is like multi-positioning of different. You have one big plasma ovate cell, sun, and you position planets around, and because of them correct positioning to each other and regarding the sun or cell, one go close. Do you understand? This is complex positioning. Yeah.
You could also say that each individual sperm has its own individual magrav, which is positioned around the ovary.
Yes. How much close is your magrav to the magrav of the cell? That much you positioning on the correct way. It's the same what Mr. Keshe explained with X. You may turn on that side, turn on other side to find which one is the best positioning between two plasmas. When they achieve that positioning, then interaction starts. Do you understand?
Can I throw in just a short question? Elia, thank you very much for those explaining. Awesome. I just have one question. I mean, when when people have when women have like twins or three babies, I mean, what is the positioning dependent upon? I mean, when two or three sperms, go reach
Yeah,
inside.
this is completely the same. Uh, it is the same like you have the sun, Earth, and Moon, or you have the Saturn with several moons. You
Okay.
understand? This is the same positioning.
Okay. Okay.
The
Thank you.
But
yeah,
isn't
it
it
is
two eggs?
completely.
It wouldn't that be
Sorry,
egg? Wouldn't a
if you
twin?
have two eggs,
You
you have
have two, right?
you have the two suns. So we will
But I
reach
mean, you
soon
could have
that point, I think.
you could have different. Like, is this where the Siamese twins come into the fact? Well, it was one egg, but two sperms, or two eggs within one egg. Is that possible
Yeah,
to create a
everything is
Siamese?
possible.
Yeah.
Everything is regarding how you positioning to plasmas.
But this was also due to the way it was created in the woman's body or the man's body in the first place.
Yes, and also have so many causes of infertility regarding the migratory state of the father and mother when they are not matched to each other, even have allergy state between the cells, what they discover since 1 2 years, and now in some country this is the cause of divorce. You are able to apply to divorce without investigation. Do you understand? They are thinking beings, doesn't matter, they are just cells. They think they are living beings. So they have a fields, they have them likes and them dislikes. Is like above that below.
Yes, great, thank you.
Okay, perhaps we should move along to Mr. Keshe and have him respond to some of the things you've talked about, Ellie.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elia. We never respond.
You're
We
welcome,
always
sir.
extend the knowledge. We try to expand and extend our knowledge. First of all, as we have seen, Dr. Elia goes in detail about the physicality and how situations are set and how conditions are created in a matter of state as GANS, matter of state. In the way we look at the space technology, and if you go back in this Chinese session which we had just before the medical section, I explained that there is no need for physicality to be there, like the egg and sperm, to lead to the creation of life, creation of tangible physical life, and to creation of a condition to be able to create what you call a child or offspring. The whole process goes back into the teaching of last Friday. The coming, the interaction, the gathering of 2 or 3 eggs and sperms in any shape or form is to manifest the physicality for the essence of the life, which is the soul and the emotional part of the entity. In the case of the human being, in the detail we heard from Dr. Elia, this tube leads to creation and the condition around the environment which the first cells create, which then allows the feeding and the manifestation of the soul in a physical, tangible way. I do not look at creation in the form and the shape which physicality has brought in the essence of man, or physicality of the man. In fact, the ovary and the womb could be in other creatures placed literally next to the mouth or on the neck if you want to position it. In some developments of the creatures we see different positions for the ovary, different positions for the womb, different positions for the testicles, and in different shape and forms. So the positioning of reproduction unit is very much irrelevant. What is relevant is how the total information carried in what you call a sperm or egg, in coming together, can share a common denominator, and then in that common denominator decide who has the better surviving chance for the offspring. What condition, which environment, the sperm sees itself and sees a better, stronger position to survive. Then this becomes why the parents have brown eyes and the child turns up with a blue eye, or different color of skin, or the same skin and different combination and patterns. The whole essence of all this, what I call caboodle, all this package of testicles and ovaries and the womb, is in fact to create an environment within an environment that can support life and support the existence of the soul and the emotional part. It's very simple. Look at the structure of the head, the skull, and look at the position of the brain and the thalamus. Then again, look at the position of the womb as a bone structure and the position of the womb. And then the seed becomes the thalamus. This is where the emotion come together and take shape. It's exactly the same shape and color with some. If you go mass ratio of the hip and the skull, you'll find it's about the same. But because of the different thicknesses and shapes to allow the attachment of the leg bones and everything else, it has taken some cavities, but the total gravitational magnetic field of the bone, hip bone and the brain, what we call the skull, is about the same. Not very far from each other. All this is to guarantee to create an environment where when the RNA come together in their interaction, and it's like mixing two software together, can lead to a hardware that can exist and stand to carry the features of the physicality. In fact, what all the things we heard from Dr. Elliot today leads to one thing: physicality. And physicality in the world of creation has no meaning. It's just how you want to present yourself. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a clown suit, or you're wearing a bow tie suit, or if you're wearing a mini skirt or wearing your trousers. It doesn't change the reality there is a man inside this cover. There is an entity with emotion. And so the body of the man, the body of other creatures in the universe, in physical shape, has no relevance to the existence of the soul. What the soul gets and the emotional part receives from the physical part behavior that it has to interact with and decide on, This is important in the world of universal creation. This all explaining how physical body exists, why the eggs are in this shape. All these have been positioned in a specific position to create the right, what I call soft memory bank in the shape of the form of an egg or a sperm. In so many ways, if you could take the digestion system out, and as Dr. Elia explained that, as we always say, 80% of the energy we need comes from the environment and 20% from the food which we digest. If you look at the structure of the womb and the structure of the brain, if you look at the way the whole physicality operates to guarantee the survival of the brain and the heart operation that receives energy for its physical side, is no different than a womb. Brain and the whole physicality work to keep the brain going, and then the whole physicality works to make sure that it can leave a replication behind, what we call a child. But it does not work to leave the replication as a child. The whole structure works to leave what we call the emotional part, the effect of the creation of non-dimensional entity, what we call the soul of the man. Because we have seen in the past decade, we can take an egg of a man, a woman, and a sperm of a man, ship them across the world and mix them together and still lead to the same creation. A human being. Do we need to do this? Did we need a man or did we need a woman to be able to place the womb and then incubate a child in it? Or was the whole purpose, as we do in what we call test tube babies? Fertilization plans and the programs now are heavily used. We know cases that the men who can't have a child or a strong sperm or not enough sperm, they ship sperms halfway around the world. They choose the color of the eye, the physicality, and everything else, and they put them together in a test tube. When it's good, they put it in the womb of the mother. But by the time it reaches the womb, it already has created its essence of life. So, the physicality of the man as a womb and as a sperm or as an egg is totally irrelevant nowadays. This fits into the understanding and justification of the existence for man up to now. But now we don't need to. And further on with what I explained in the Chinese program today, which was a prelude to the teaching of this afternoon on the health side, we have shown there is no need for physicality of the man. We can, and in the coming time scientists will show that we can create entities which have logic, sense, and even soul, because they carry the soul of the creator. They carry the soul of the man who put the reactor together. The same as universe and the materials and the reactors of the universe in creating an entity being reproducing energy system as man, carry the soul of the creator. This is why we always say to all the knowledge seekers, pray for your reactors. before you start. That praying we could not explain, because you put it together and carries your soul, is part of you. And that's how we emotionally control each other, or how emotionally through the souls we interact with each other. Up to now you were used to test tube babies carrying and creating from one parents, from one race or one nation to another. Now what we've seen, especially in the reactor SSI-1 and the follow-up reactors which will be developed, these are the test tubes of space technology. This is where we'll decide how to replicate, how to give a soul, and because we create out of the pure energy, pure plasmatic gravitational magnetic fields, the children of the future of the man will be pure and perfect. A lot of people, especially like Dr. Elia, have been putting a lot of pressure on me in past days. The human race cannot die, we have children. We carry the soul of the man. And now you have seen how it can be replicated. A mother who gives an egg and a man across the world who gives an sperm, they don't know where they're going to come together and how they're going to come together. And when they come together, in physicality put together, the only thing they share is not the RNA, but they share a mixture of which is the best of the RNAs, and the other one submits and allows. And what is released, which is not to be used, becomes the energy of the division in the cell. And then the environment feeds itself off it. So, do we need all these elaborate systems? Do we need all these wombs and testicles and prostates and everything else which goes with reproduction of the man? Not anymore as of now, as of what we understand and what we have developed in the next steps. I've seen on some chat rooms I can produce GANS without salt, of course. But in the condition of Earth, in what it is, to lead to one, you need another. That you create a condition that the physicality can divide in different strength, that it becomes different organs. Physical body of the man is fragile. But the information which leaves as what we call non-dimensional software, which we call the soul or the emotional part, will exist forever. Because it lives and it survives out of the balance fields. This is the way we look at life, and in essence you can create the soul of the being, be the man, use his soul to balance fields in the environment of other souls, that the brings balance to them, without the physicality ever manifest itself in the matter level. In a very much way as you see in the air bubbles in your reactor cores. You know the fields are in there till you understand the position of the soul. I explained something to you that it might be very, very interesting for a lot of you, and a few of you who don't have this. I will show this when I'm back in the Sansano. If I remember, we take a video for you to see. Take a ring magnet and move it on either side. One side shows north, one side shows south. But if you place it in the right position, within the north you see the south. And within the south fields, you find the north. And then this is the point where there is no field. It shows blank because it cannot be north and the south. And this is where the interaction of the fields shows a balanced, correct fields, or what we call the soul of the man. In so many ways, scientists have not understood the truth about the creation. You can reproduce entities which have correct behavior, and through it will create a perfect physicality. A large number of these exist in the universe, and it's not the first time it's been done. But you have to understand, when the non-dimensional become physical is the time when the physicality needs to be fed, and in that process is when everything changes and becomes for it what we call a energy consuming package machine. As we explained in the Chinese program today, how you use the like CH3 to use the hydrogen as a feed because of its gravitational pull of the amino acid. So life, the way we've seen it, as I explained it to you in on the Friday session, is all to create a condition for existence of the soul, where through it a balance can come into the physicality or emotional, and then the physicality itself. And in a way, if you look at the structure of the man, carries the wish of the soul in so many ways. A right hand with a left hand, right part of the brain with the left part of the brain. Wherever emotionality for its existence has a say, has replicated its effort and its copies of its soul. Right leg, left leg. That there is a balance. And in being a balance, you don't limp, you do walk correctly. And the same thing happens with the soul. When it's in balance with the emotion, thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not do wrong. This is the way life and reproduction is looked at in the universe, and not in physicality of the man, that you need what we call physical interaction to lead to the creation of life. In the universe, reproduction is done even without physicality. There is no need. It's the interaction of the energies, and the best of the energies to leave essence, part of that energy, for it to grow, which we call the soul. And then through the interaction of the soul, we create the physicality. What does this mean? This means part of the energy, what you call RNA of one, in part of the energy of the RNA of the other, in interacting with each other, like very much the magnetic field of the sun and the magnetic gravitational field of the earth, leaves a residual package through their friction, what we call the light. And in other words, the same thing, the interaction between the gravitational magnetic field of the RNA of the mother or a man, of the sperm, and the woman, what we call the egg, leaves a residue, which that residue becomes the light, or what becomes the soul of a child. And that, and how that soul creates a physicality for itself to show itself, then that depends on the environment and the conditions that Dr. Elia explained. How much, the number of eggs, the number of sperms can get in, can get out, is all to create a condition that two can interact to create a soul. Then it goes back again, what happens in the condition that there is one physicality, but the number of souls within that physicality. Does the physicality pay for the punishment of the all three in the conditions of what we call a schizophrenic? One is good, one is bad, one is lovable, one is angry, one does wrong, and one does the good things. Then does the physicality of one entity, which one does wrong and the other one does good, does the souls of each individual within that soul stand the punishment because the other one has done wrong with the physicality? No. It's very much like twins separately. Each soul stands for its own term in the realm of creation. Does independent of the physicality, what it does and how it shows itself. The whole process of creation by man has, as I always say, is taken the wrong way. It's taken in the shape of physicality, and that's where the essence of creation has been lost. And that's why we see all these gatherings of wealth and crimes, because it's all to support the status of the what I call a feeble physicality. If man come to realize that there is no need for reproduction or leaving the essence of life through physical interaction like sperms and eggs, or what you call sexual intercourse, man will find leads to creation of the most beautiful creatures in the universe. And that's why we say the maturity of the man comes in understanding his position. And that's why in the universe we do not see the physical interaction the way man is used to regenerate. That's why there is no need for physical interaction. In giving, the soul and in interaction of the equal balanced souls lead to the creation of what we call offsprings in a different dimension. And because you create such an entity, that entity, like as it does not have the fields to be manifest in a given strength, stays as a perfect soul and a perfect entity. But in cases and in dimensions you cannot see it represent itself as non-physical, but in other dimensions and conditions, because of its strength, it's visible or tangible. And that's why the souls are tangible, physical, and detectable by each other and within each other, and the information they interact and they carry and they give. Just because the man cannot see his own soul in physicality does not mean the soul doesn't exist. But the soul exists through the interaction of the souls, is created, and because it's as a given strength, is only what you call detectable by the souls of the same strength. So even soul has a physicality, but only in respect to its own strength and the environment of the soul which is in. Very much like a man cannot exist in the environment of the water on its own, as a fish cannot exist on land without the water. He has to be in the right environment to exist, and is visible, and he contacts, and he understands, and he finds of his own strength and his own tangibility. Or not the tangibility, but interaction. Then it goes back again. Do we need the physical body of an entity? Very much not so. And as the races mature, the physical and physical interaction to reproduce or release or make available entities to guarantee the survival and reproduction of the further souls, all can be seen in that realm. Not with the eye of the physical man and the way he expects everything to see. So in so many ways, the reproduction system which we heard how they are and how they do, is just a ways the body of the man and the environment of itself in trying to make the package available that it can be done, has chosen this elaborate way on this planet. But this goes back to something very interesting which I explained, and in so many ways not many people understood in past workshops in the recent past. Where in the process of the amino acid, the way we explained in the Chinese lesson just now, how amino acid comes to be created on the water levels, and in the presence of the salt, becomes a entity, living entity, and we have seen in so many occasions that when there is a water and when there is a condition, leads to creation of fish out of nowhere in these pools where there has never been water. Two possibilities. Over millions of years, there were fishes which is left in that water, which eggs can recycle, and through the condition create a condition for RNA to be released for the fish to be replicated in the entity as a DNA. Or does this go back to a very fundamental question to ask for the human race? Hasn't been the RNA that we say we have a common mother, or we go back to the same position, a fallacy? Where due to the same condition as we had in Africa or in Asia or in America, the rain, the salt, created a condition for physicality, which is a condition of this planet, the way Dr. Elia showed in magnetic gravitational field of the Earth, leads to replication of the same entity. And that's why we all show a common mother RNA. The common mother RNA, or what we call DNA, or the amino acid, or mother gene, comes from the atmosphere of this planet, which with the interaction of the matter side has led to the physicality. Does this mean that the RNA man exists within the atmosphere of this planet and not within this soil and the physicality of the entity of tangible entities of it? And then it brings another question in the dimension of creation. As we cannot see the gases and we see it in contact with the salt and the water to become physical entity, tangible entity. Does this mean that the air of this planet and within the environment of the fields of the plasma of this solar system carries its own creation, which is a fingerprint of it, will be in the man? Then it comes to the question, does different environment and gravitational magnetic fields lead to the creation of replication of the same entity in respect to the environment? Man never traveled from Africa to Asia, but Asians were made due to the condition of the environment in the same process. Because if you can create a condition in one place, the same can be created in different conditions in different places in the same environment. Which means the South Americans are of their own origin. The Chinese are of their own origin. And the blacks and the whites. But the environment have created this condition. This is very much what we say, one race in the past killed the other race and now became the superior race, and this is where we are. But where did the other race come from that this race killed? How come we don't see it on the other side? These two races, did they come in Africa and then one became superior over the other one, and then the other one spread across this planet? Or the environment of this planet allows the creation of twins and triplicates in a natural process, because now we understand The amino acid, what we call the basis of the creation of the entity, has been replicated in Canada, has been replicated by our Chinese friends, has been replicated by Australians and South Americans and people in Nigeria and Africa. And we all see amino acid on top of the CO2 box when we extract CO2. Are we all the fruit of the same tree? As is in the writing. This brings, with a new technology and new understanding, a huge question mark in the whole structure of the humanity the way he thought he is, or was. Because in time, in a very short time, as we are developing new institutions to develop this technology further, we'll come to create another race of the man on this planet without a mother and a father, by creating the condition of the energy within the reactors. And then we can create the perfect man. Without hate, without animosity, without thinking about the war, because he's created out of the pure energy without the physicality, then he'll carry the same ethos. Or can we carry this energy into the brain of the man, which comes from the same DNA, or what do you call it, energy level of amino acid, that he accepts the new condition? Personally, I don't think man came from one mother, from the knowledge which sits in front of me. We all have created, we have mixed in time, but as we see, all of us have managed to create the same amino acid around the world, from China to South America to North America. This puts a huge question mark on the origin of man. All as one, or the condition we have created in what we put as RNA. The same goes for the fish, the same goes for the other animals. And the thing is, we say we are 95% rat, or 95%, 99% mouse, or 90.9 something percent a monkey. Because they all came to be developed from the same mixture of the gases, what we call in their combination became amino acid. Each one has taken its own turn of development, and so the race of the man has nothing to do with the monkey or with the rat. It's just that the conditions has been that the physicality has changed to that, and just as we see the same process, we call them, we have carried the same thing, the same genes, the same 95% or 99%. With a new knowledge, the whole development of life on this planet, the way it has been accepted up to now, becomes a fallacy. Because the truth is on the table. The truth is on the table because you have seen you create a amino acid in China or in Canada, and you allow that the iron to rust near it in the contact points of your thing, the way we did here, you led to the creation of the blood. Then what information you want to put into it to replicate itself. The same goes for the creation of life in the universe. What this means, as the life in the universe goes through the same process of plasmatic condition, all entities in the universe are connected and are one. So as we say, you cannot eat your brother in a space, you cannot eat other creatures. You won't eat your own child. Why should you eat another thing which is not yours, but still your child, because you are his child, because you came from his field. So this is what we push through technology as new understanding of science for world peace. That the peace comes through the understanding of the true science, not what is being fabricated to suit some. Energy, light converts to physicality, tangibility at the point of the environmental condition, and vice versa. So there is no mystery in being able to reduce, to create matter from light, or change the matter to light. This is up to now has been the shortfall of understanding of the man in this process. Any questions?
Hello, Mr.Keshe. This is Kayvan from Vienna.
Hello,
It's a
Shiva.
lot of hello, Mr.Keshe. It's a lot of knowledge to absorb and digest. You mentioned many times, even from the beginning, that the difference between the RNA and the DNA. The RNA is, I think it was your words, information carrier. Is it possible that the information carrier, I mean, you've been talking, I know it might be a little bit far-fetched about creation, but can the RNA, since it's connected to the emotional part of the brain and to the soul, be transformed and have that effect on the physicality beginning with the DNA?
That's how it works. RNA is the software, DNA is the hardware.
But can it be changed? Can it be influenced by other, since it's information carrier, through whatever source of...
I explained this before. In the past, there had to be done adjustments to the environment of this planet for certain things to be correct for the human structure. So, informations and energies in a given strength can add to the RNA structure as a totality. And when you add that to a totality, that creates a new condition for the fields which it creates, which leads to the creation of tangibility of physicality, which is a DNA. In so many ways, RNA, as much as it gives to DNA for it to exist, it receives from the environment of physicality energy for itself to sustain life too. It's a two-way traffic. But in so many ways, because it only accepts energy, the mistakes of the physicality cannot be transferred to it. It receives only energy as it needs. So the RNA, in so many ways, to the emotional part of the soul of the man, stays perfect. What you see problems in the physical DNA part of the entities is to do how the fields from the RNA, by the time they get to DNA to manifest themselves on their interaction, lead to this what you call deformities, but they're actually in a perfect order, but we don't like to see what is there. We see birth defects and they say it's a genetic, but is it a defect? Or don't we have to admire it because of his soul and not what he shows himself? Maybe he is a perfect creation because he cannot do no harm. Maybe the physical souls which are perfect appear in the shape of man, disabled man, in a form that they are pure and they don't want to carry to do anything wrong to change the position of their soul. And us as physicality, we are looking all of physicality, we call them disabled. And it goes back again, is very much homosexuality in different shape and form is wrong. And would it hurt the soul or change the soul? Maybe it's for us to understand the soul has nothing to do in so many ways to do with physicality. It receives from physicality energy, but as it receives energy, energy does not carry animosity or whatever, it's just a field. It's a school of thought which we have enforced ourselves to come to understand, to believe, that justifies our existence. And it's very much is on the condition of the environment we live in and what we have accepted and the conditions we have accepted. In so many ways, I was explaining this to the knowledge seekers in past few days. In part of Nepal, a woman can have 4 men, 5 men, because they go in the fields for months and years, they don't come back. And there's a need for survival of the children, so they do that way. And then you go in another part of the world, 1 man can have 4 wives. It's all what we have accepted to be right because it suits us. But does it suit the soul of the man who has to share a woman, the soul, or a man who has to, a woman who has shared her soul with another 3 or 4? We have made things to justify ourselves, our physicality. But in fact, when it comes to the soul does not receive the measure of what we call energies, which is wrong or whatever. But if it is strong enough, it will carry itself to the RNA and becomes a condition, new condition for RNA, different energy level. Then it becomes a change.
Thank you, understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other question? We have no questions. I see a lot of questions on the live stream, but these I think I'll leave you to search and find out yourself.
Just reading those questions on live stream there, okay.
Yeah, I see them because there are a lot of reasons for man to find an answer to it. We have made a lot of mistakes in our path, and we have accepted a lot of things to suit ourselves and become different school of thoughts. When we all understand the school of thoughts is not communistic, but basis on a workup to be correct, and we understand how correct we are. What we react to situations does not make us to be what it is. We could be very calm internally, we are calm with everybody else, except when we come to one person. Because the behavior of that person provokes a condition of reaction. Because it's not acceptable to us. Because there is something wrong in the behavior, in the physicality of it. Or does not apply to what it goes between emotion and physicality. Does that person changes the soul of one person in respect to the other souls and other things? No. So there is a lot of deep questions for us to ask about our people around us who provoke conditions, and then we see them in that way. Even it's because of their own shortfalls. We've seen this with the world leaders, we've seen this with the militaries, we've seen this with all sorts of conditions. For just to justify their power, they provoke wars for them to be strong and to show their leaders. Most of the wars around the world is incited by one man to show his power, that I am power. And so if we understand this does not affect the man itself with soul in a way that the soul wants to exist in respect to the other soul's position, then we understand in so many ways physicality in totality has not much relevance to the emotion and the soul of the man. We change behavior because of what we need, but we don't change the soul. And that's why the soul stands the way it is. Shall we call it a day? We've been going for nearly...
Thank you, Mr.Keshe, definitely.
Thank you very much. There are a couple of announcements I would like to make in respect to the health section. We partially announced this, and in the coming days we'll announce it in a very profound and direct way. The Keshe Foundation Health Section will come to exist as a total independent organization, and we have been allowed and we've been given the what you call it, authorization to see the technology and the development of the tools, which is the reactor systems for medical system, to be used across the hospitals, across major government, what they call it, countries. We received this confirmation in the past few days, and in the coming days we'll announce the first hospital in Europe which will accept full patients on behalf of the Keshe Foundation technologies. Agreement has been reached with one of the most, as I explained past, eminent organization, actually independent governments, that you can buy all the reactor technologies freely within this what we call government, which means you can go and ask, for example, for a system for your all sorts of problems, be it psychological, be it Alzheimer's, cancer, or whatever, and you can buy it off the shelf in the coming months, because it's been allowed to be developed and to be marketed in that way. This is a major breakthrough for us, and hopefully Dr. Elia will head this organization in the coming weeks and days. We have and will announce the name of the hospital and the organizations around the world who carry this technology as on the health section. This is a major breakthrough for us, and at the same time, in the coming days and weeks, we'll accept the first health students and the masters, or what you call first degree students, that they join in the main group, and then they divide into health sections in the coming days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. I think everybody enjoyed the show today. It's outstanding.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll speak later on. Thank you indeed.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Bye-bye.
And a big thanks to Elia for a great presentation today as well. And so ends the 16th health workshop. Thank you once again, everybody, for attending.
Our abdomen cavity and pelvic cavity. Actually, different star formation, they are separate to each other from diaphragm. We start with diaphragm with mouth, then diaphragm in thoracic area, and finish with the third one, diaphragm in pelvic area. Actually, abdomen cavity and pelvic cavity, they are positioning so close to each other, next to each other, actually in one common cavity, but they are separate between them. And in the abdomen cavity, we have two star formations, how we spoke the previous workshop, and the pelvic cavity, we have only one star formation. It is regarding, this is for female body or the male body, have a different components inside. So if we speak about the female body, the components will be womb, left ovary, right ovary, and the G-spot, what is actually the gland near in between the bones and the in front of wall of the vagina. And if it's for the male body, will be prostate gland, testicles right and left, and again the G-spot. And the visit will be face down. In that sense, our body forms two poles, south and north, and the south pole will be open up after our fifth star formation, after the pelvic cavity, and the north pole will be open up above the first one star formation. This is the cranial cavity. Okay, then the next slide. So, how you notice the direction of the busy of each one star formation? Now it's understandable for you that our body form the magnet and magnetic fields between the north and south pole. Actually, we form two inner torus structure, and one will be covered the top reactor cranial cavity in the chest reactor. If you remember the previous workshop, I told you that both star formation in cranial cavity and thoracic cavity, they are completely sustainable. They are able to work without other three star formations. And the next sequence on Fibonacci, we start with 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. If you notice, we have the top reactor 1, and then we separate with the thoracic area 1 more. In the abdomen area, we have 2. With pelvic area, we have 3, and all is 5. It means we follow, even in the separation of inner our reactors, again the Fibonacci consequence. On the right side of the slide, you see how this hexadendron is actually the base of building of our energy system. And the torus, which is covered our material body, actually. And we may say that the first is the energy matrix of our body, and then the energy is compressed to the matter level state. Actually, if you look ourselves like a light banks, we will be looks like that. Okay, then we go to the next slide. In the next slide, on the left side, is visible for you how two octadendrons, when they split together, for inside is the human body. This is actually all the geometric point of view of our architecture of our body. And because of that architecture, we have specific spinning of the fields. How I told you the previous workshop, in the abdomen area, because of the third star formation, what is in the middle, on the base of liver, the BZ face right to left because cause the spinning of the vortex of the all energy inside, which is generated from other star formations. And why we have to have two in abdomen area? Because in abdomen area, this is the place where we convert the solid matter to the GANS state. It means there the matter state is so heavy, so solid, and need a lot of energy to start and to proceed with conversion. So on the right side of that slide, It is again representation of torus system and vector and geometric vector, what we actually have in the BZ line in the abdomen area, and how, because of that geometric structure, our energy fields, they spin right to left on the same way like our DNA. So on the next slide, I will show you why I explained everything to you after the moment. So we consider that we have small structure and
Welcome everybody to the 16th Keshe Foundation Health Teaching Workshop. This workshop is called the Pelvic Cavity and Reproduction, Conversion of Matter from GANS to Solid State. And today we'll hear from Dr. E.Kostova of the Spaceship Institute. And after that we'll have a commentary by Mr.M.T.Keshe of the Keshe Foundation, and he'll give his input on Elia, who will give the more the professional doctor's point of view, but she'll also tie in with the Keshe teaching. Okay, Elia, are you ready to go there?
yes. Hello, everybody. It's me, Elia. It's nice to be with you and the sixth health teaching workshop of Keshe Foundation. Today, the subject will be the pelvic cavity and reproduction. In the same way, of that place, we have transforming the GANS state to the matter state. So today, we'll be see the vice versa transversion of matter, opposite of the digestive system, where we convert the matter state from matter to the GANS. So on the first slide, I just want to remember you the different parts of the body cavitation. So we have the cranial cavity, where this is the place of the core reactor of our body. Then we go to the chest section of our body, and this is the place for the second star formation, built from the two lungs, heart, and thymus. Then we go to the abdomen cavity, where we say the previous workshop that we have two-star formation formed from liver, pancreas, spleen, output system, and bladder, and one more formed from kidney, renal gland, and bladder. And today we'll be speak about the pelvic cavity. This is our fifth star formation. And then we go to the next slide. On the next slide, I mention you is like on shape, the name of different star formations, just to keep in mind and to not forget. On the first, you see the two star formations in the cranial cavity and in the chest cavity, and the direction of the BZ arch. On the cranial cavity, the BZ is facing down, and the thoracic area is facing up. On the next slide, we will see the reason why it is happening like that in our body. Then the next slide, it is again representation of the star formation. In one torus will be after the diaphragm and will cover the abdomen cavity and pelvic cavity. So actually we have two inner torus because we are magnets, and all these two torus, both two torus will be covered from one common outer part of the torus, what be our energy egg, if you remember how I explained it to you the previous workshop. Actually, we are the magnets with two parts of inner torus separate because of separation of our star formations and the vector of star formation where the face at the BZ line up or down, and two inner torus, they're inside of the outer torus. This is our aura, how we call in energy anatomy of the human body. Okay, so the next slide, please.
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
Dr. Elia, you
Yeah.
got to explain it's BZ, not BZ, because it doesn't
Yeah,
show what it is.
BZ. Yes,
BZ
BZ.
is the horizontal line of the magnetic field flow from the plasma.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So with that slide, I want to remember for you how we separate the human body in different plan. So we have the frontal plan and separate the body from front and back. We have sagittal plan and separate the body left and right. And we have the horizontal plan and separate the body from top and to bottom. Also, we have additional plans, but this is the main three plans of our body. And on the right side of the slide, you see how they form specific shape. And inside of that specific shape is placed our body. Actually, because of that place, we have different cavity inside of our body where is the place of specific organs. And that specific organs have that place because they have specific function. Then we go to the next slide. Because of that separation of our body, of our architecture of our body, actually we got the shape of cup of hexadendron, if you see on the left side. And the cup of hexadendron is combining structure of many other small geometric structure inside. Actually, our body is completely built and it's related with the golden ratio and fractal geometry. Even if you notice it in the concentric geometric model inside of our cube of hexahedron, and this is the tetrahedron and octahedron, and in the Platonic solids, this is representation of fire and air, like a matter state. So the next state, this is the earth, and everything what is on the earth and its origin from the earth, the main geometric structure inside is hexahedron. So with our architecture of our body and of our fields, we represent the earth. This is one of the point how to consider which one being from where come from and what is the base of that being. Actually, on the earth, the base of hexahedron, this is the carbon structure. And because we are being from the earth, we have a carbon structure of our body. How you see the next geometric structure, they're completely different for water and ether. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide with everything what I told you and a representation of cosmogenesis is a more geometrical point of view how because of organization of fields, finally we will reach the matter state. So we are come from the space like a field, and that field's reaching the earth, and because of the construction of the earth, like architecture of the fields and then the matter state, we finally get specific shape and architecture of our body. Then we go to the next slide. Next slide is again a representation and repetitive model of the toroid system of the Earth, of the galaxy, of the erythrocyte, of our human body, and how that torus starts to divide when give birth from the new being. Just keep in mind that picture how the common torus divide to the two parts and where is the vector geometrical vector between two torus in the middle. In the same way divide the galaxies, and the same way divide the cells in our body, in the same way how you saw divide the energy system in our body. This is the repetitive model. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Interesting information what's come that week in the net is that Professor Miles and Dr. Romero and Dr. Giovanni and their team, they managed to slow down the light inside of the vacuum for the first